Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 192 of the Sophie Art Podcast, which is a little podcast that I do about the art and things, and lilDENNiS is with us, little co-host. And this is actually the first podcast I'm doing for about 3 or 4 months where I'm actually in front of the camera, so it feels a little bit weird because I've sort of forgot what it feels like to be on the camera. It's a bit weird, but also we're getting into Christmas now, and so we've got a little friend with us. So if you're watching on YouTube at youtube.com/Sophie Lawson, you'll be able to see little Peter the penguin's friend. He's a little Christmas penguin. So we've got a little penguin with a Christmas hat on, which I thought was quite cool. So he can go on top of that thing over there. We've also got the little artist Teddy. He's cool, he is. I need to find him a little space. I was thinking about putting a shelf up, putting this little Teddy on the shelf or something like that. But let's get into this one straight away. So lilDENNiS is going to get us into it. Boing! Oh, it feels good to have all the stuff back. Like everything. Because what it was for a while, for a while, I couldn't record these podcasts on my desk because the desk was covered in stuff. So I've slowly been getting my space back. Oh, before we get into this one, I picked up a book in the second-hand shop for 33p, and it's called 640 Things or Tings to Draw. It's a big yellow one, quite a big book. But what it is it's a book full of nothing, like all blank pages, and in the top of the pages it will say something. So like this one here, it says a shooting star. So what you have to do is you go through it. You've got 642 sort of like prompts. A time machine is one of them. That's cool. A Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I'm actually going to do a quick little video of that soon, because the fun thing is, which I noticed last night, somebody, because I got it in a second-hand shop, somebody's already been doing little drawings in it, which I like that. I've also got another book which comes from 3D Toto Publishing, and well, they sent me this for free, and it's a book all about art foundations. So I'm going to do a quick look at that as well. So those two will be coming up soon on the podcast. But the thing we're talking about today has got a little bit to do with another book that I've got, which I got this at a car boot sale for 50p, and it's called Are You Psychic by Pete A. Sanders Jr. So I'm not very far in. I've only got through the initial preface thing. I'm already taking quite a lot of notes. And before I forget, they mentioned something in this called, it's a TV programme from the, I think it was the 50s or the 60s. And it was called One Step Beyond. Yeah, it used to be called Alcoa Presents. It was later renamed One Step Beyond. And it's all about ESP. But what it is, because I'll put a link in the description. If you look on YouTube, this link that I'll put in, somebody's made a channel full of all the videos. And there's hundreds of them. But the thing is, they're all black and white. Doesn't bother me. Some of them are in colour, but they're that thing where they've colourised it. It's cool. But what it is it's a 25-minute programme, and a bloke comes on at the beginning talking about something. He might say something like, time moves forwards, but for John, time was about to get very strange. And then what happens is the camera will pan, and the bloke that was talking, like the narrator, he'll disappear, and you'll go straight into the scene. And then there's little mini episodes like the Twilight Zone. I've never heard of it before, but it's like the Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, things like that. It's all about psychic things. So far I've watched 3 of them. They're brilliant. And then what happens is at the end, the bloke comes back he actually walks into the set, and then he explains it so it makes you wonder what is time, stuff like that. It's brilliant. So I'm going to keep watching those, because the thing with those is you can watch it just for 25 minutes, and then it's not like it all carries on. I like things like that. But this book, I'm not really talking about this book really, but I am going to be talking about it over the coming months. So some of the things in this book, it's basically, well, he set up this foundation called Free Soul. Now I think it's very sort of linked in with what I want to talk about today, which is the madness of the world at the minute. But he's talking about free soul, and what I like is the psychic ability is actually linked, for me, it's linked with freedom. It's linked with freedom. So what am I trying to talk about in this one? Well, I want to talk about the fact that I think we're at the crunch point now. Right at the crunch point of the timelines splitting. But the thing I'm thinking is, I've got so many things to talk about. I should have took some notes really. But the thing is, I'm looking around the world at the minute and I'm thinking, how has this happened? How has it got to a point where people... Well, I watched a video last night by Russell Brand. Again, I'll put a link in the description. And in this thing, I think it's the Prime Minister of Australia. Or it's at least somebody in the government in Australia, like one of the higher ups. And he was talking about like pushing the vaccine thing. But the thing was, if you look at this bloke, he looks like a monster. he looks like he's possessed by a devil, like really aggressive. His eyes look as if he's actually like it's pure anger. So what I'm saying is, you've got somebody like that in the power trying to push this vaccine thing, and then if you look at the people who have got an open mind and I would say are standing up for freedom, they are the complete opposite, full of love. So for me, it makes me think, well, what would you rather? Would you rather go in the direction of that sort of monster, a fear monster thing, the control, or would you rather go in the love direction? The thing is, the love direction at the moment seems like it's the minority. So it actually feels a little bit scary to go there, because the other thing is with fear feels a lot more scary than it really is. Reminds me of something here. Well, the first thing is I want to talk about this bloke called, I think he's called James Patterson or something. I don't know, he's some sort of psychologist bloke. And I watched a video of his a couple of years ago. And he was talking about like Hitler. Because for me, we are right, I would say we're already there. I feel like actually, sometimes I think, did actually Hitler win the war in a strange way? And somehow it's got there. In other words, was Hitler trying to do what they're doing now, but Hitler did it so sort of in your face that it didn't work? So what they did was they did it in a much more subtle way, slowly, baby steps building up. And now what's happened is we're at the point now where it's actually quite clear what's happening. So now it does start to look like a Hitler thing, which gets to me, I think, well, how is it possible that people haven't worked out what's going on? Now this James Patterson bloke, I can't remember his name, some sort of psychologist bloke, what he said, looking back now for us, looking back at like the Hitler days, and all of the Germans that sort of fell into that, he said, if you was born in that time as a German, you would have gone along with it. And you sort of think to yourself, no, I wouldn't. But the thing is, you look around and you can see that actually it's like a society thing. There's like a bubble of... Society, to me, is like a bubble. And we're all separate little things inside this bubble. But the bubble is moving through the water like this. And that's like you can say that's like the Hitler thing. So what's happening is, if you're a little thing like this and the bubble comes along, you're going to get taken in with the bubble. It's just because the size of the bubble. But the thing is, you don't have to. But the probability is you will, because of the it's almost like you're a little tiny bubble with this massive bubble, which is society. So you've got this little David and Goliath. You've got this little bubble, which is you. It's the probability is you're going to get taken in with the big bubble, but you don't have to. So you do realise that you don't have to. You can go straight through the bubble like that. But so I thought, well, you sort of think, well, it's impossible that you would have done the same thing as the Germans and gone with Hitler. But looking around, I can see it. People who, this is another thing as well. I've got a million things here to talk about. So when I did my first psychedelic experience, my one and only one so far, in January 20th this year, what happened was, for 2 weeks after it, I got this download all the time, during the night, during the day. It was as if something opened up something, and it's as if somebody just was like throwing a load of data in. So I was trying to make notes of it all and stuff. I actually recorded a podcast, which I never put it out, because the stuff I was saying, I thought, I can't say that. The thing is, what's weird now is, I listened to a podcast, again I'll put a link in the description, this bloke talking about how you don't have to, if they say, you got to say you're not allowed in the shop unless you've had a jab or something like that. He was talking about the legalness of it. So basically, he does it brilliantly. You don't have to do it. You've got freedom basically, and it's liable. They cannot do it, so they know they can't do it, which is why they're not really enforcing it. But it's the fear thing. The fear makes you think it is. Very complicated, very intelligent. So what he was talking about on this was, what was it he said? I've lost it. He was talking about something. Well, he said two things as well. Fear is controlling everything. So like the everyday people are being controlled by fear. Fear that if, say, you don't wear a face mask or something, you're gonna get a fine, or you're gonna get, say, I don't know, you won't be allowed in. Fear of losing out. There's fear controlling that. Businesses have got fear of a fine. So you start looking at it, what's happening at the moment, it's all being controlled by fear. So again, do you want to live in a world controlled by fear? I know I don't. So this is why it's a little bit weird at the minute, because you sort of it's sad. That's what it is. It's sad seeing it happening. But what's amazing is, so this morning I went into a shop, into Aldi's. I didn't wear a face mask. Pretty much everyone else was wearing a face mask. There was a couple that wasn't. 2 black people, and I looked at them. Connection. They didn't see me, but I saw them, and I thought, yes, and then it made me realise you only need really one person, but also you don't need anyone. As long as you're doing what you know is the truth, that's all that matters to me, really. But it was so nice to actually see somebody else, for me, like standing up for freedoms and stuff. I wish I could remember what I was going with something. Talk about Hitler. What was that bloke talking about? Oh, I've lost it. The basic thing I'm thinking at the moment is this thing is being controlled by fear. And I've got this ominous feeling at the moment. It's as if we are days away, weeks away, very close to something really. Well, I almost think it's actually the point of like separation between the two timelines. That's what I was talking about. So there was this podcast I did after the psychedelic experience, which I didn't talk about, but this bloke on this video, when he's talking about the legality of it, and how they can't force you to do anything, even if they say you're going to lose your job, they can't actually do it. He's explained it brilliantly. What he was talking about was, at the end he was talking about the vaccine, and he said something which I thought, wow, this is the first time I've heard somebody say something, which is the thing that I was saying after the psychedelic experience, which I didn't let myself say on the podcast. I didn't release the podcast because I thought I can't say that. But then when you hear somebody else say it, you're thinking, well, what's this? So what happened? I might release that podcast, I'm not sure. I got really emotional though, because what happened was, well, there's lots of people, even like people in my family, who said, I ain't having that. The vaccine thing, they ain't having that. But then they went and had it. And then they say, and then they had that one, and they say, well, that's it, I'm not having any more. And then like a year later, they've had like 3 or 4 of them. So you start to realise how one little action, it snowballs. So I would imagine what happens is you have the first one, and then you sort of think, well, I've had one, what harm is there in another one? And before you know it, you're having one every week. So I think what they're actually doing is trying to turn you into like a robot. That's my thing. So the thing I got from this psychedelic experience was, because it kept saying DNA is time slowed down. This vaccine is interacting with your DNA. So I got this sense that they're somehow manipulating the timelines. Now what I think is going to happen is, this is what I said on this podcast, is there's going to be a moment, a point, when they activate whatever is in that vaccine, and literally everybody who's had the vaccine will drop dead. So everyone who hasn't had the vaccine, it will look like everyone else who had the vaccine will drop dead. But because this is some sort of simulation that we're inside of, some sort of computer thing, like a dream, I don't know what it is, but it's some sort of thing that outside of it, you can actually manipulate it. I think what's happened is, whoever is actually running the show here is actually outside of it. So they've actually got the ability to sort of manipulate the entire system, like create a new illusion. So what it said, this is what it said. Basically, the moment they all drop dead, right, what happens is that their consciousness will get almost like teleported. Well, not, it'll get transferred. Like, it would be like, imagine you've got like a computer. Each human is just a bunch of data. You put a USB stick in the computer, you can download all of the people, basically. Very much like Noah's Ark. I think Noah's Ark was a database thing. And all it did was, it didn't have a ship full of animals. It had some sort of device full of the code for each animal, so that they could recreate the code after the flood. So what happened is, it might even appear as a flood. So those people who drop dead, what happens is they get put onto their data gets put into another timeline. So to them, everybody who didn't have the vaccine, they will get given a visual, an illusion, a simulation of everyone else dropping dead. So to them it will look like the ones that didn't have the vaccine died. And that could be, say, it could be anything. Well, for them it might be like they think they got an extreme virus, which they were protected by because of that vaccine thing. So for them, they will carry on with their life, going off on this timeline. Everyone else who didn't have the vaccine will actually stay. They'll either stay on this timeline, or I think they would stay on this timeline. So what would happen is the Earth would. But this goes back to what happened at the thousands of years ago. With like the flood, it's resetting all the time. So what happens then is you've got survivors who have to rebuild the civilization, and then it will start again, and you'll go through the golden age, and it will go all the way back, and then in another 2,000, 26,000, however many years, it will start again. So it's this endless cycle. So even the ones that go off on this other timeline, they will still be doing the same thing, because there will be people on that timeline who had the vaccine who would start questioning things. So now what you end up with is, you end up with this never-ending thing of stuff splitting off. So you've got let's just say you've got like an original Earth. What happens is, at some point, something corrupts it, and it basically splits it, so you end up with half corrupted and half pure, like that. So you've now got two earths. What happens is, over thousands of years, the same thing happens to these. And then what happens then is, the pure one now has half pure and half negative, so that separates. So you've now got another two earths there. Same thing happens on the negative side. And then so if you could zoom right out, you would just see this sea of, I would say, infinite things splitting off. Fractal. It's almost like the way nature works. Everything is making itself. But I do think somehow it's looping. So somehow the original Earth is somehow going to be at the end of all of it. I don't know how, but it loops in. So it ends up looping never endlessly. So there is part of you that thinks, well, what does it matter whether you go off in that timeline or that one? Because there is another part of you, and it's part of me, because it is quite self-conscious and anxiety-filled. It is and it isn't. The thing is, I'm getting a lot more, I would say, confident. But also, because I know... Yeah, because I know that I will never let go of my freedom, there's a sense of sort of confidence about that. But at the same time, as I said before, because you're inside of this thing, you are going to be affected by it. So even if you know that there's nothing they can do to take away my freedoms and stuff, you still have this illusion that it could be possible. So there is still anxiety there. So you do sometimes think, oh, shall I just, for goodness sakes, let go and go with the rest? Just go with it. Just do what they want, just for an easy life. But no, because yeah, you have an easy life now, but it will take you in the wrong direction. I know it will. And I think what's actually happening is it looks like it's going linearly in two timelines. I think if you was actually to look at, I think somehow it's actually going sort of up and down. So what actually happens is some are like ascending, some will be descending. But so I don't know. And then you start thinking, is it like waves? Again, look at the waves. There's a point in the middle where it's static, straight. But if it goes up, it has to come down. So you've got to have both sides of it. Weird. But for some reason, I've got a feeling that this Are You Psychic book is going to be quite important. The other thing is, I've been thinking a lot about stuff. So it's quite weird how I got into lucid dreaming and all this stuff a couple of years before this stuff happened. And what happened was, I remember some of my dreams. It's as if the dreams were predicting the future. So I remember seeing, I talked about this before in the podcast, this was like years ago. Before any of this happened, I saw, there was me and a group of people, we were looking over this like bank down, and you saw all these people walking as if they were like robots being remote controlled, and they were walking into these buildings, and I knew that they were basically walking to be slaughtered. But there was also like loads of drones flying around, so we were sort of like hiding, and it felt very much like if we got caught, we would end up like that. But now, again, last night, a couple of nights ago, I saw something about, because I don't watch the news or nothing, I don't know nothing about stuff like that. But there's something about in Australia, they've got these things where if you're not having the vaccine or something, you end up in these camps, concentration camps. Again, you sort of think, how is this possible? How is it possible that we've let this happen? Very strange. So you start thinking, well, where is this going to end? And I thought to myself, by now, we would have, like, enough of us would have woken up. But I don't know. It's weird. When you go online, like you watch Russell Brand's videos and stuff like that, people who know what's going on, look at the comments, there's thousands of people who are agreeing. And there's millions of people watching these videos. So you know that there's millions of people out there. The thing is, though, when you go out into the shop or something, it seems like you're the minority. because it seems like most people are just going along with the thing. But I think what's happened is let's say you've got 100 people. I think you've got about 10 people who are 100% believing the propaganda, I suppose. 10% who know exactly what's going on. You've then got like 80% in the middle who are on varying degrees of sort of believing it and not. So what's happened is those 80% of people, again, like what I said about before with the bubble, society will push them in the direction naturally. If they don't do anything, they're going to get pushed with the bubble. And the bubble, because it's being controlled by the media and stuff, which has actually got investment in all of this stuff that's happening, they're pushing it in that direction. Again, go back to Russell Brand's video. He was talking about another thing, which was about Bill Gates having. Basically, Bill Gates has got control of the media. So what you've got somebody who's got control of the media, control of the vaccine stuff, all into computers. The thing what I'm saying is, if you just pay attention, it's obvious what's happening. So I sort of think, well, how is it? But I don't know. The good thing is those 80% of people are going like back and forth at the minute. So, but I don't know how you can, let's say, fight against the sort of the propaganda. The only way I think it could happen is if somehow, I don't know, it needs either somebody in a high position. I don't even think that would work. I was going to say somebody in a high position revealing something, like a scandal or something, but I don't even know if that would work. I'm not sure, because sometimes I think, is it just that society is now too far gone, and is it just going to be that there is only going to be like 10% of people who actually sort of get through this, and everyone else, is that the way it is, or is it going to be a 50-50 split? Is it going to be a 90% split going with the story, or it is quite interesting. And I can imagine if I was outside of this thing and I put myself into this illusion, I could totally imagine choosing to come here, even though it's like feels like the worst period of history at the minute. Also, if you know that this is just part of the story, I suppose, you would put yourself in it, wouldn't you? It's like if you're watching a film, sometimes you choose to watch a scary film. And you think, well, why do I want to watch a scary film? Because it creates the most emotion, memories. So think about it. When we leave this place and return to spirits, if we've come through this massively challenging thing, imagine how powerful you're going to be. It's amazing. And I would imagine there's going to be like spirits out there thinking, I wish I had the balls to have reincarnated during that time or something. It would be amazing. That's cool, though. So, but I think that's it. So I feel like I sort of went all over the place again. Maybe I need to take some notes. Maybe what I need to do is actually sit down, write about some of these topics, and then actually do a podcast more structured. The thing is, though, what I like sometimes just being like that, sort of spontaneous, letting it do what it wants. Because what I've noticed is sometimes you'll say something, you don't even realise what you're saying, and then when you listen back to it, you think, that sort of makes sense actually. It's quite cool. So all that's left is this week's inspirational quote. I hope you enjoyed that, and also we're getting near to Christmas now, which is exciting. But I've got a feeling, I don't know why, I keep thinking Christmas ain't happening this year. I don't know why, I've got this feeling. It goes back to that ominous sensation. I don't think we're gonna make it to next year somehow. I don't know why. But I thought for this week's inspirational quote, I would turn to a random page in this book, which is called it says You Are Psychic. Yeah, you are. You are psychic, because we all are. And it's by Pete A. Sanders Jr. And this is an MIT trained scientists' proven program for expanding your psychic powers. That was it. I thought it was quite strange how a lot of my dreams have been almost like predicting what's happening this year. Strange it is. So this week's inspirational quote is this: the more you know, it's not going to be that. What can it be? Well, it'll be. Actually, I'll go from the beginning, because when he's doing an introduction, it's going to be more sort of general. Here we go. Look, the freedom to explore your higher ESP potentials is not only your birthright, but the most important of your personal liberties. That's cool, isn't it? And then he goes on and says, knowing how to use those potentials in particular ways, how to tap on demand the psychic abilities heretofore locked within yourself, will provide you with life-changing and life-enhancing opportunities. I like that first bit though. The freedom to explore your higher ESP potentials is not only your birthright, but the most important of your personal liberties. Pete A. Sanders Jr. Oh, there was one other little thing I wanted to say. So again, doing a lot of sort of, I suppose, is it introspection or something? Thinking about stuff. And it's quite, again, this is like some sort of synchronicity thing. My whole life, being transgender, put me in a minority group, living, so the other thing, wow, there's lots of things here. But what I'm thinking is, was those years of me being transgender and hiding it, was that sort of like an overcoming it, basically? Overcoming it, because it's very strange how as soon as I overcame that, accepted myself, all of a sudden this stuff started happening. It's almost as if all of that 35 years or something of being a minority for transgender was just practice for what's happening now. Because what happens is, there's another thing as well. The fact that I overcame that sort of gives you confidence as well, because you think, I can overcome anything if I can overcome that. Which I like that. What was the other thing? Something else. Can't remember now.